Good morning on this first day after the holiday of Sukkot and the holiday of Simchat Torah. And it was truly amazing month of holidays, community getting together in so many beautiful and wonderful ways, and seeing all the kinderlach, all the children rejoicing and so on. But I'm giving the class, because of scheduling reasons, I'm giving the class a bit early today. So let's get straight to it. Another exciting thing is that we started Genesis, Bereshis all over again. We are, as is known, the people of the book, Am HaSefer, Am Chacham V'Navon, a wise and understanding people, because we are blessed to have the Torah. So let's get straight to it, first by starting the class with giving some tzedakah, so that we start with a mitzvah and we elicit bracha, blessing. There's a lot to talk about with limited time, so let's try to get it all in over here. So in the parsha of Bereshis in Genesis, it's such a full parsha. It has so much. There's so much talking about creation and creation of man, and and strife of the first of Cain and Hevel. There's just so much to talk about. However, I want to focus on one or two verses that is in the Parsha in chapter 2. There's a very famous verse which impacts us, every single one of us, every single moment of our life, in one way or another. Because if not for this verse, you wouldn't be here today. And that is the following verse: by Yomer Hashem Elokim, and God said, Lo Tov Hayos Ha'adam Levado. This is after Adam is created. God says the following statement, and God Almighty said, it is not good for man should be alone. It's not good for man to be alone. Therefore, the verse continues, E'eselo ezer kenegdo, I will make him a helpmate opposite of him. That's the straightforward meaning of this verse. Every part of the Torah has at least 70 facets. In fact, there was also a wonderful custom that the Rebbe Rashab, the first Chabad Rebbe, would do and publicized every year. As we started the Chumash, we started the learning of the Torah anew, with after Simchas Torah or on Simchas Torah, Parshas Bereshis. Every year he would be, besides sort of generally learning the commentaries, he would focus and zero in on learning a new commentary that he has never learned before. Now, what does this mean? Lo tov hayot adam levado. It's not good for man to be alone. In other words, in the Torah's description of creation of man, it talks about creating Adam. Then God says it's not good for Adam, for man to be alone, for Adam to be alone. I will make a help for him. Correct? And this is the reason why the woman was created, as the Torah relates. Now, what does this mean? There's a lot of insight over here. So, I'm just giving over here a little synopsis of commentaries as brought in this Hebrew Chumash. You see it? Okay. Which is a Chumash, it's a very good sort of collection and a synopsis of many of the classical commentaries. I'll try to read maybe one or two even in the Hebrew and translate. So he says like this. This is from Rashi elsewhere. He says, why is it not good for man to be created alone? Shelo yomu shtei reshuyotein. They shouldn't say that there are two gods. It's interesting. I want to sort of be respectful, because I know there's others who listen who are maybe not of the Jewish faith, but it's interesting over here that the way Rashi explains this, say you shouldn't say there are two gods or two authorities. That God is one, the singular authority in the heavens. If man was created, there was only one man created, or only men created. Again, I'm just reading the translation over here. Then people might come to the conclusion that a human being is the authority, is the God of this world. So he created man and woman. Now, on the lighter note, you could say that the woman is the one who reminds man not to take themselves too seriously. As much as you think you're the king, our wives often, and I say this in a positive way, often remind us to remain humble and don't think that it's that it's your way or the highway, etc., etc. Various ways to apply that. So this is one of the explanations from Rashi. The Radak says simpler, more straightforward. The Radak, Reb David Kimchi, another of the known commentaries later than Rashi, says man is a social creature, and if he's alone, who's he going to socialize with? He can socialize with the animals that God created. Lo tova yota adam levada. It's not good for man to be alone. The Ramban gives another, also pretty straightforward, which seems to fit into the general flow of things over here in the parsha. It's not good for man to be alone, simply because if man is alone, he can't procreate, and life will not continue. So therefore, I will create for him a spouse, and so on. So this is some of the commentaries that are brought over here. I'm just looking over here. Okay, now there's more other commentaries, and there's beautiful commentaries. We have a limit, as I said, of time due to scheduling, etc. So I want to focus on a couple of things. God says, God, our creator of man, creator of the human being, says, Lo tov hayot adam levado. It's not good for man to be alone. Now, do we all agree with that statement? Do we challenge that statement sometimes? There are people who definitely challenge that statement and say marriage is not necessary. I was talking to somebody, of course, I'm not going to give any details for the privacy of the situation, who said he's much happier being divorced. He doesn't have to, he's not answerable, he doesn't get nagged, he doesn't get critiqued, he doesn't get complaints why he's doing azoy or doing like that. He's happy to be divorced. So, but here the Torah, if you notice, does not say lo noach lo la'adam liot levad. It's not comfortable for a person to be alone. It might be more comfortable for a person to be alone. Here the Torah specifically says lo tov. It is not good for man to be alone. I want to further analyze that, or delve in a little bit deeper over here, based on a Dvar Torah that I shared once or twice in the past. Then we'll come back to this verse. Because the Torah also then says, E'esalo ezer kenegdo, I will make for him a help. And the straightforward, or the more literal meaning of this word, E'esalo ezer kenegdo, means I will make for him a help, kenegdo, in opposition of him, which is a strange expression over here in the Torah. And therefore Rashi brings from the Talmud, Zachav, man is more meritorious, then she's an ezer, then she's a help. Lo zachav, man is not meritorious, then kenegdo, she will be in opposition to him. As King Solomon says, matzah isha, if you found a woman, matzah tov, you found goodness. But on the other hand, he also says, umotzeh ani et isha mar mimavet, I find a woman that can be more bitter than death. And here we could, so which one is it? Here we can say Zachar also is exact. I'm digressing for a moment because I want to go to a different thought and then put it all together. But nevertheless, here also we could say Zachar could also mean not only meritorious, but Zachar means he's refined. If a person is refined, if the man of the house is refined, he's refined, he's what we call in Yiddish edel, he's humble, then Ezer, she will be a help. If he is arrogant, if he's non-refined, lo zacha, straightforward meaning means he's not meritorious. A little bit of a deeper meaning means lo zacha, he's not refined, he's coarse, he's self-absorbed. Then Kenegdo, she will be in opposition to him, because as King Solomon says, Kemayim aponim el ponim kein leva adam. Just like when you look in the water, you see your reflection, so is one heart to the other heart. I want to elaborate upon this a little bit more with another beautiful Dvar Torah that I shared in the past, which is when God makes man, God says, Na'aseh Adam, let us make man. What does it mean, let us make man? In fact, Rashi, the Talmud, have to explain this, because this led some to conclude that there's more than, God is turning to other gods, God forbid, chas v'shalom, and he's saying, let us make man. So, why use the term let us make man? So Rashi explains, let us, as he's turning to the angels, just out of sort of deference, out of respect, so that they shouldn't be jealous, because man is such a focal point and so on, so they shouldn't be jealous. He said in his humility, and to try to include them, he said, let us make man. And when the actual creation happens, it says, Vayivra, and God created singular, not plural. That's what Rashi says. But there's a very beautiful commentary that, what does it mean, Na'aseh Adam, let us make man? Let us make man, God is talking to an entity that, so to speak, even God himself cannot create man without this entity's participation. What does that mean? God could do anything. Hashem is kol yachol, could do anything. The answer is, God is turning to the man that he's about to create. He says, let us together make man. Was meint us? What does that mean? He says, what defines man versus animal? An animal, it's all about instinct and preservation and self-gratitude, self-pleasures and so on. That's what animal is. That's its nature. Not good or bad. It doesn't make moral decisions. This is right, this is wrong. What distinguishes a man from an animal is that a man could rise above themselves, could rise above their own selfish needs and be altruistic and do things because it's right. And therefore, because God trusted only man to be able to make these moral choices, God says to man, let us make man. Meaning, if I create you and your life and your focus and your desires is all about self-pleasures, self-indulgence, then you are essentially an animal. You're no different than a hippopotamus enjoying itself as it wallows in mud. But if you go ahead and you use the gift, the tremendous trust that I gave you, and you make the right decisions, and you go beyond yourself, and you're genuinely kind to someone else, and you genuinely realize there's a greater power, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God Almighty, which is greater than yourself, that's only, and only then are you man. And I can't do that. Only you could do that. So Na'aseh, together let us make man. I've shared this in the past. It's a beautiful insight. But let's get back over here to Lo Tov Hayota Adam Levado. One of the commentaries says, Lo Tov Hayota Adam Levado, says that, if you think about this, Lo Tov Hayota Adam Levado, it's not good for man to be alone. One of the most painful things is to be alone. Today's generation, at least in recorded history, there's a lot of depression, there's a lot of struggle. To be alone, you could be with others, you could be part of a family, you could be married even, and you could be alone. To be alone is a very painful mindset, to be truly alone. Lo Tov, God says, not good to be alone. In the deeper sense, marriage in the basic sense means that you have to look out for somebody else. It's not all about you. You enter into a marriage and it's all about you. Lo zacha, it's not going to work. It's not going to be a marriage, a union. V'hayula basaracha, they should become as one. So, on a deeper sense, or on a broader sense, lo tova yot adam levado, you want to know what your purpose is, what your purpose as a human being is. You want to heal your feeling of loneliness. You have to go out and give to somebody else. I'll make for him a help in the truest way. The greatest help that you can receive is by being able to give to somebody else. There's no greater happiness, contentment, but fulfillment of purpose and mission of what makes you uniquely human. And that's why it's lo tov hayota adam levado. It's not good to be alone. That has to do with your marriage, has to do with your family, with your society, with your community. Lo ezer kinegdo. I will make for him a help kinegdo, in opposition of him, meaning something that's outside of him, something that's different than him, not just an extension of him. We live in a time, I sometimes look at sort of Western society. We live in a time, societies come, go, the stages. I look at a time, I see to a large extent Western society and its indulgences. I almost look at it as stage of teenagehood. There's been challenges to marriage. There's been, on the basis of it, it's about me and what is in it for me, etc. That's like a teenage mentality. It's like the brain is not fully developed. When you start challenging God, who created us and knows what makes us work, you see the results in society of the attitudes that challenge a traditional, good old a marriage and a family structure, and where everybody understands that they're part of that family, community structure, and so on. This verse, which occurred on the first day of creation, God says, "Lo tov hayot adam levado," and in a greater sense, which is also mentioned especially in Jewish mysticism, Adam over here is referring to the supernal man, to God Himself, and God says, "It's not good for me to be alone. I cannot fulfill the purpose of creation and for it to reach its ultimate perfection, which will come to fruition with the coming of Mashiach, as promised by the prophets, if I'm alone. If I'm alone, I created man. Man is the equivalent of sort of the wife to God Almighty. Together with man, I could have a world which will, despite its challenges and despite its setbacks, will reach its perfection." And I was thinking about that also in the context, since on Simchas Torah was the real yahrzeit, the real commemoration of October 7th. And I was thinking to myself, Lo tov hayot la'adam levado, it's not good to be alone. And there's been lots of videos and writings, and I didn't really get a chance to see them. But I was sitting in the shul, Simchas Torah morning, or Shmini Atzeres in the morning, which is the yahrzeit of the horrific massacre of October 7th. And I was saying, it's a mitzvah. Simchas Torah is the most joyous holiday of the year. What are we joyous about? There was so much death, there was so much pain. And, I was thinking, talk about, it's like on the contrary, we have so much to be joyous about. Look at our enemies. What are they celebrating? They're celebrating death. They're celebrating destruction. A year later, where are they? They have totally, in the name of religion, caused so much pain and grief. Not caring about innocent civilians. There's a picture of Sinwar, who Baruch Hashem was eliminated on Sukkot. There was a picture where you see his wife coming down into the tunnel with a $30,000 pocketbook. Talk about self-indulgence, totally just free. What's going on over here? And look at our people a year later. Yes, a lot of pain, and we don't understand the pain, but who are we? What have we demonstrated? What's the character of our people? We're about life, about living, about giving, about looking after each other. Lo tov hayot adam levado. I shared one of the most incredible stories. Sapir Cohen, one of the hostages that was in Hamas captivity for, I think, 100 days. And she related some of her experiences while she was in that horror. And she said, when I was taken hostage and taken to wherever they took her, and there was a teenager there who was trembling and frightened and cowering in fear. And she said, now I know why I'm here. I'm here to look after and to encourage and to give hope to this teenager. Incredible. Lo tov hayot adam levado. Your greatest gift is when you could be not for yourself. Here's a hostage. She has plenty to worry about herself. Her life is in danger every moment. And she says, I came to the realization, this is why I'm here. This is who we are. We have so much to be joyous and to dance for because this last year has revealed the true character of who we are. This is what we need to take forward in the coming year. I saw a meme and I shared it on Facebook. Simchas Torah, Tafshin Pei Hey, the Hebrew year. We will dance forever. Because we take this verse, Lo tov hayot adam levado. It's not good for man to be alone. Both in our marriage, for our community, for our family, for the world at large, wherever we could touch. We take this verse so seriously, and that's why we dance. May we have a year a new year, growth, continuing to truly appreciate who we are, make a commitment to lo tov hayot ladam, find specific areas where you could express kindness to another through the guidance of Torah, which is why we say Torah avodig milchat sadim. First Torah comes because we have to make sure we're doing Torah kindness in a proper ethical way as taught to us by Torah. May we be blessed for a wonderful, beautiful new year. Thank you for the opportunity for me to share kindness by teaching words of Torah, which inspires both you and me and so on. Everybody should have a fantastic week. Sei gesund and blessings, only blessings.